Episodes of the Green Corn Rebellion Show are sponsored by Oklahoma Progress Now. Oklahoma Progress Now is a 501c4 organization focused on building progressive power in Oklahoma. Their primary efforts are on developing progressive content for a 21st century audience, coalition, and capacity building across progressive organizations and causes, and working to see elected leaders who are more responsive to their constituents and the needs of the many. Areas of focus include progressive messaging and communications, coalition building and resource sharing, and focused progressive policy goals. You can check out their Twitch live streams, and they go live on Facebook on at noon, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Please support this organization. It's a really great organization. It's just getting started here in Oklahoma. Thank you. Now enjoy the rest of the video. Oh, this is the Green Corn Rebellion Show, and today I'm here with Molly Ooten, who is a candidate in the special election for the Oklahoma State Senate seat in District 22, which
Yep.
was vacated by our current U.S. Representative Stephanie Bice. So, what part of Oklahoma does this district represent? It's like three different counties, am I correct?
Yeah, well, it's two different counties.
Two different
It's kind
counties,
of
yeah.
shaped like a T. Like
Yeah,
the top part is like wider and it goes all the way into West Edmond and then over here to Piedmont. Um, and then there's a little bitty chunk, like the body of the T, that dips down into Yukon. So
yeah.
it's really just Oklahoma County and Canadian County.
Okay. Thought a little
Yeah.
bit of the county above that was in it, but yeah, that
Yeah,
sounds
the
about right.
top the
Yeah,
top line is the county line.
yeah.
So whatever that Logan County maybe?
Yeah,
Oh,
Logan County. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, first question I have here is where are you from and where'd you grow up at?
I am from here and I grew up here. I started out in Oklahoma City, um, lived in the village, went to Nichols Hills Elementary School, and then when I was in the sixth grade, we moved to Edmond, and so I finished out my public education career at Cimarron Middle School and then Edmond Memorial High School. And then I went on, I don't know if this is probably your next question, but I went on to go to school and get my undergrad degree from Harding University, and then my graduate degree in speech pathology from the University of Oklahoma. So I went to Arkansas and then I came back. But except for those 3 years of undergrad, I've always been an Okie.
All right, that's cool. The second question is, what all have you done prior to deciding to run for the seat? Episodes of the Green Corn Rebellion Show were brought to you by Addie's Sugar Shack, located at 1228 North Interstate Drive in Norman, Oklahoma. Norman's new shaved ice concept. They feature 45 flavor options plus unique snacks. They love the vibe. It's worth the drive.
I have been working as a speech pathologist um, prior to this. So for 6.5 years, I've taken a leave of absence to focus on the campaign exclusively. But prior to this, I had been working for Sooner Start for 6.5 years, and then I did a year at a skilled nursing facility before that. So part of what inspired me to run is that the model of Sooner Start. It's the state's early intervention program, and we serve children ages 0 to 3. Um, and it's free to everyone of any income level, anywhere in the state. There is a Sooner Start program that will serve them. For Oklahoma County, it's done by county. For Oklahoma County, we pretty much stay right within the bounds of Oklahoma County, but all over the county. I mean, I had kids, you know, all over Northwest Oklahoma City, South Oklahoma City, Midwest City, Edmond. Um, and the great thing about it is because it's free and available and voluntary, for everybody who qualifies, I never had to justify how much treatment or what type of treatment I was giving a child to an insurance company. So just like the public schools, because Sooner Start is an extension of the public schools, we are able to decide between, based on the test results, in a justifiable way, like between us and the family, what level of service this child needs. Um, and so it gives you a lot of freedom, to be in a situation like that. And I felt like it was a model for how healthcare should be in general, like
Hmm.
led by and determined by the healthcare provider and their patients. So I also started seeing like the intersection of bad policy, good policy, policy in general with actual working families, and kind of trying to chase down some of the like, well, like here's the gap and like they're not able to afford something, like surely there's something out there for this particular situation. And oh, there's not, like a middle class family trying to pay for speech therapy after their child aged out of Sooner Start, um, and their insurance covered speech therapy, but the copay was $60 a visit, and so they were paying more for speech therapy than they were for childcare. Their childcare was $115 a week, and um, the speech therapy bill was 120. And
Yeah.
it's like that's not sustainable. So um yeah, stuff like that is kind of what drew me to this field. And obviously 2016 changed things as it did for, a lot of us. um but I actually think that the skills of a speech pathologist really apply. I've had to So let me back up. Part of what we do at Sooner Start is a coaching model. So the data says that children develop better and learn skills better when they're practiced in short bursts over longer periods of time rather than like the 30 minutes of a speech therapy session. Now, as they get older and they can spend that speech therapy session doing drill words, it gets more and more effective in that 30 minutes. But for the littles, we really need the parent to be fully on board and doing the strategies throughout the day as part of their routines. We call it routines based intervention because what we're trying to do is work it into what you're already doing so you don't have to like sit down and do speech therapy. Um, so coaching families requires this level of trust. And so I've gotten good at developing relationships and building trust with people and listening reflectively. Um, and I think that those skills are extremely important in a representative. And so a lot of people are kind of like, speech pathologist and state senator, like those don't really go together. But for me, there's a lot of crossover.
All right. Um, so tell me what your plans are for public education here in Oklahoma.
I, and I say this to everyone, like I'm not going to come in able to write legislation. If I am elected, I will be coming in at the end of the session.
Yeah.
So my job will largely probably revolve around making budget decisions because that's what happens kind of at the end of the session. And what I think is the focus right now is prioritizing public funds for public services. Um, I think that we have to be really, really careful when we're talking about making our public services, putting our public services into a for-profit management system, especially since those for-profit institutions don't have the same level of accountability as the public schools do. They're
Yeah.
not required to disclose how they're spending public's money. Um, so my plans for public education are to um, fund it. Let's get teacher salaries more competitive. Let's fund class size mandates so that districts aren't having to put 26 kindergartners in a
Yeah.
room, because they can't afford to stick to the mandated class size limit. So those are the main things. I think largely the job of a legislator is less flashy and um, heroic than people think it is. But just those two things alone, competitive teacher salary and mandated, funding mandated class sizes, I think would make a huge impact.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah.
Okay. What are your plans for healthcare in Oklahoma?
Um, there's a lot that is yet to be seen with healthcare. I think that there is obviously COVID is the top healthcare concern, but um, there's some things that apply more broadly as well. I'm concerned about managed care and what that's
Yeah.
going to do for accessing. I think that passing Medicaid was a wonderful step. And I think that efforts in the legislature to silence the voice of the people by making it more complicated or harder to, have state questions like that, I think that's disrespectful to the voice of the people. Even if it was something that I vehemently disagreed with, if the people vote, like, isn't that the most representative way
Yeah.
to pass something? Is people directly voting for it? Like, why are we trying to make it harder? That seems elitist. And isn't that what they're fighting against in theory? I don't know. Some of that just I don't know where it it's about power, maintaining power, but it doesn't match with some of the other theories that they have. Um, so yeah. What else? I would like to um, I would like to look into um, mandating um, treatment, like insurance coverage of certain things, like for instance, the autism mandate that happened. I believe it was in 2014. Um, but I would like to look into, what it would cost the state to mandate that, or what it would cost insurance companies. Like, I'm always going to be willing to look into the impact. I'm not just going to say that, hey, this is my ideology and I'm sticking to it no matter what. Like, I want to know what the actual impact is. And I think that there needs to be, you would have to do, like studies to see about what the impact might be. Um, but like I said, I think there's a lot to be seen because at the federal level, I mean, I think that there's more to come here
Yeah.
in terms of single payer healthcare being a likely option for everyone at some point in the next 4 years. Um, so I hate to say that it depends, but it kind of depends.
All right. And on your website, it says you support criminal justice reform. What are some things you'd like to see us implement in reference to criminal justice reform?
I think that criminal justice reform is tied very closely with mental health. Um, One thing that um, we know works for domestic violence calls and for mental health crises is having community responders that are trained in those types of things. So I would love to see, and I have to be honest with you, I'm not somebody that's going to say defund the police. Um, I will say, let's put funding into hiring social workers, or maybe incentivizing social workers or someone with a bachelor's degree in social work to go through the police academy. Like, these are things we can talk about.
Yeah.
But what could be a really good first step and a way to show the community that the police departments are dedicated to community policing would be to require and fund mental health crisis intervention training. Um, I'm sure you probably know the statistics of the our law enforcement officers who've taken this training. Um, I think it's just very unfortunate that the officers involved in the Benny Edwards shooting had not received that crisis training.
Yeah.
Um, and I think investing in the resources that we already have to try and build them up in a constructive way um, would kind of be the best of both worlds there. Um, Another thing that I always like to mention is, I am concerned about for profit prisons. Um, and the theory behind them was that they could provide the service better. And I don't know that
Yeah.
has played out in the data. So I am concerned about that. But again, we'd have to really look into funding our state prisons. Um, and so it's kind of a matter of like where to put the resources, but those are some of the things on my mind. Um, Another one that's not really criminal justice related, but sort of adjacent, is I'm really passionate about making sure that our judges, specifically in the juvenile system, but really across the board, receive trauma informed training. Um, the judges that assign custody to kiddos in the foster system should be acutely aware of the effect that trauma has on the brain. Oklahoma is first or second in the nation in terms of adverse childhood experiences. I know our First Lady has been vocal about getting that training mandated, and she's kind of led the way on doing that for DHS. But um, I would love to expand that. I would love to be a part of the mental health caucus that was recently started by Julia Kurt. Um, all those things, again, they're not the big flashy headliner things. Um, but my position as someone who would be coming into an extreme minority is going to be one of collaboration
Hmm.
and not like pushing an agenda so hard that I don't get anything done.
All
So
right. Um, let's see here. And the last question I have here is what kind of music do you listen to?
well, I kind of like folksy stuff, singer-songwriter type music, cover songs, like when they acoustify, uh, regular regular music. I really like that. There's a song by Smith and Myers. Um, it's a cover of the Dua Lipa song "Don't
Hmm.
Start Now." And it's amazing. So highly recommend. What about you? What do you like to listen to?
I mostly listen to heavy metal, stuff like that. Like,
I love it. Right after we get done with this, it's gonna be like, "Ah!"
yeah. Well, thank you for coming on. Where can we find you on social media, and what is your campaign
I
website?
Yes, my it's pretty easy. All of it's under Molly Ooten, MOLLYOOTEN.com. And then my Facebook is just Molly Ooten for State Senate. My Instagram is mollyooten.ok, and my Twitter is Molly Ooten. So,
All right.
yeah.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Thank you so much for having me, Gregory.
You're welcome.
Talk to you soon. Bye bye.
Bye.